In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole, filled with ends of worms and oozy smells, nor yet dry or bare, sandy hole or nothing in to sit down or eat. It was a hobbit hole. Welcome to Nick Nack's Corner. I'm Nick. I'm wearing my wizarding robe, and I'm in a corner. So let's begin. Today we're going to talk about my favorite author, J.r.r. Tolkien, the creator of Lord of the Rings, The Silmarillion, The Hobbit, Beren and Luthien, Fall of Gondolin, and many, many other tales that were unfinished. He is an amazing, amazing creator. The man had a way with language that I would say is almost unrivaled. He was able to create his own with actual linguistics. He was able to create alphabets. He was able to incorporate it into all of his work with poems and songs and religion and history and everything behind it. It was quite enthralling, and it's what actually kicked off most of fantasy, modern fantasy as we know it today. Now, that's not to say he's the first fantasy writer, because we have things like Beowulf, the Odyssey, and things like that were just written long ago, that's based on mythology. There is no rhyme or reason behind it, other than, to tell a great tale and to teach you a lesson, pretty much. But that's what Lord of the Rings does too. It teaches us a lesson. It teaches us to be better, to be good, to be wholesome, to be the best kind of people we can be, and to, above all, hold honor in the highest places. The man wrote an entire plethora of books. He translated a bunch of books, and he was very influential to everything that has gone through fantasy up to today. And even, when I was a kid, I would run around the woods with wooden sticks, pretend to be swords, and pretend to be Aragorn or Merry or Bilbo or Sam or, Boromir. I would run through the woods trying to just replay that, and even then I created some of my own. Me and my friends had our own written language that we made, which was quite fantastic. I don't even know if I'd be able to replicate it again, but we did borrow a lot from Tolkien when we created that. A shout out to my friend Alphonse from way back then. He was a new kid in school, and he brought these books and called The Lord of the Rings, and it was The Fellowship of the Ring. And he had just finished reading it, and it was the September before the movie was coming out. And so he lent me it, and I burned through the first book, and I wanted to go see the movie so bad. We went and seen the movie. I went out and I bought the box set of Lord of the Rings, and I have gone through. It was the Fellowship of the Ring edition, the Two Towers edition, and this edition. I've gone through 3 copies of Lord of the Rings. I own 5 copies of Lord of the Rings total over the years. I've read the books 30 plus times, somewhere between 30 and 50 times. I can't remember. And it's not to say I remember everything, because it was at a period in time in my life where I could never finish a book. I have learning disabilities that make it hard for me to figure stuff like that out, and I've had to work hard over the years to overcome those disabilities. In doing so, Lord of the Rings helped me out of that little bind I was in. I was able to finish a few books cover to cover, and loved the story so much that as the movies were coming out, I not only watched the movie on repeat, but I read the books on repeat over and over and over again. And I've read them almost every year up until I was about 23, and then I just stopped because I started reading other books. And before that, Lord of the Rings was pretty much my prime go-to read. Not just Lord of the Rings, like Silmarillion, The Hobbit, things like that, because I just love the entire history of it. I'm a history buff of our own history, so History from Another World's pretty neat as well. A few weeks ago, maybe even a couple months ago, I guess, I was out at our local Value Village. It's where I go to buy a lot of my books. And I came across a second edition of The Lord of the Rings. Look at this beautiful art. All second edition, 1956. Lord of the Rings. Amazing. It says $275 right up there for the price of the books when they were bought, which I think is pretty cool. I bought all three of them for $3.99. Someone obviously didn't know what they had in their hand. They went, "Oh, these are old books. Yeah, whatever, the Lord of the Rings, stick $3.99 on them." They're worth a lot more than that, I think. And the only book that out of them that's been read is Fellowship. The other two haven't even been opened. The spines aren't even cracked. My favorite parts of the books, I would say, are probably... I remember the Prancing Pony when the ring wraiths came in and Aragorn had helped the hobbits escape. And I just remember really admiring Aragorn at that point in time and thinking that he was a very fantastic character. Shady, we didn't know much about him yet, but he seemed almost trustworthy. And you kind of wondered what his intentions were and where he was going with it. And then when we found out, he just became one of my favorites. Now, in the books compared to the movies, Aragorn's also a lot more crown-hungry than he is in the movies. In the movies, he's kind of distant, back-offish, like, I don't know if I want to be king. And in the books, he's like, hey, I got my shards of Narsil, when can we, get this reforged? I want to become king of Gondor, where's my armies? But no, he's still a fantastic character in the books. Love it very much. Now, I have a bunch of friends who I've sat down and watched the movies with over years, and a lot of us read the books quite extensively and would argue over what our memories remembered. And I have this book here, which is the Complete Tolkien Companion. It's basically an encyclopedia for Tolkien, and it has definitely saved so many fights. We get into a fight, whip out the book, find the answer, fight's done. Who's right and who's wrong? It's so much fun. If you have a bunch of friends who could do that, it's fantastic. Now, I want to talk on The Hobbit for a second here. This is such a fantastic book. It was written for kids, ideally, but it's definitely not just for kids. It's an adult story too, but it's simply written to get you into the world, and it's nowhere near as broad as Lord of the Rings. But it is definitely a beginning to something amazing. Our friend Bilbo finds the One Ring. You can't see the subscriptions on it, but this is a Weta Workshop One Ring. It's my wedding ring that my wife got me. We are huge Lord of the Rings nerds, and I just love it because Bilbo's one of my favorite hobbits of all time. He's just so funny. He's awesome. He's great. I just love the way he goes about his business, and he doesn't give any craps. He doesn't put up with much. The next thing I want to touch on is, of course, the Silmarillion. What a wonderful collection of tales. This is giant in scope of a single story. This is giant in scope of many stories. If I would love to have, the War of Wrath in a book like this. I would love to see that. But we get a few little tales in here about it, and it's pretty great. And I really enjoy it. We also learn about the Silmarils, the importance of Galadriel's hair, and things like that. You know, it's been so long since I read it, I gotta do a reread of it. But it's a fantastic story, and I just love what they do with it. And also, they took a bunch of those stories and they expanded upon them in these books here with Beren and Luthien, The Fall of Gondolin, and The Children of Huron. And I'm excited to get into those books. I haven't read them yet, which is why they're not in this collection of talking about stuff right now, because I've just been so busy with so many other books that I'm going to get back into this at some point and reread The Lord of the Rings. This book has been so phenomenal. It's been amazing how it has affected my life. I start my own fantasy story in my head that I'm actually getting down onto paper at the moment, and it started out because of Tolkien. And he does so many things that you just cannot cannot just say everything you can about Tolkien. He's just a phenomenal writer. He created an amazing mythology all on his own. We got like the likes of Tom Bombadil and Goldberry and Old Man Willow in the Barrow Downs, which is fantastic in itself. Tom Bombadil is basically like us, puts on the ring, nothing happens, no power over us, things like that, but he doesn't care about it. Gandalf even says it's a trinket that he would throw away at some point if he grew bored of it. And other parts, like, I love when the Dunedain come and help out with Aragorn, and the Scouring of the Shire. Like, Scouring of the Shire was my favorite part of the book, and I was so sad they didn't put it in the movies. And I truly thought, we're watching a 5-hour-long extended version movie of Return of the King. I would be willing to sit through an extra hour to watch Scouring of the Shire. It, to me, is the most important part of the story, the most integral, because it's the hobbits coming back and taking care of business on their own. It shows that they have grown from these meek, tiny humans who were afraid at the beginning, and now they're mustering all their own hobbit friends. They're going out and they're fighting against the humans and Saruman, and they're taking back what's theirs. And I just love that, and it gives so much more context to where they started and where they end. I think that's fantastic, and it's very wonderful there. By my right hand to Iluvatar, I don't know if there's anything else I can really go on about here, aside from, if you haven't read Lord of the Rings, I highly recommend that you do. The movies are fantastic, but there's nothing like reading the books to truly understand the amazing scope of what Tolkien created. He has so many songs in the book, in so many different languages, and he's got histories and tales, and you hear about this old place and that old place, and you hear about the 9 ring race, the 9 kings of men. I would love to know more about all of them. We get very little about them, but we do get some bits and pieces. Mostly about Angmar, but the rest of them we don't really get a huge amount of. I would be very interested to see when Amazon, with their $1 billion TV show in the Second Age, to see what they touch upon there for the Wraiths. I would love to see the rings being created and handed out, and the control Sauron creates over all these people. That's something I would love to see. Anyway, I'm sure we'll have more Tolkien talk happening on this channel, as it is my favorite, and I'm definitely going to be doing some rereads of these in the future, so you can look forward to that. Anyway, thank you very much, and have yourselves a wonderful day. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, I'd suggest you do so if you want to see more content. And also, my Goodreads and Tumblr account are down in the description below. And I thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.